welcome Fáilte Chorul Gachtainna. You're very welcome to the penultimate event in Covey Week 2013. We have one other event tomorrow night. That's St Patrick's Drama Group, their production of The Field. That's in Squelforrick at 8:30. This evening is a night that a lot of us have been looking forward to, because we've seen a few previous illustrated talks by Liam Lyons from his photo album. And there's two things I'd say about Liam Lyons. One, his professionalism. We know he's a professional at what he does. He's acclaimed, he's an award-winning journalist, and he's well known all over the world. The second thing I want to put on public record is our appreciation of his generosity. Liam has been very generous, especially for community events like Covey Week, and for those of us who were involved in the soccer book. I see Brian Cusick here 2 years ago, the Westport celebrating 100 years of soccer. Liam gave us free access to all his archive of photographs. And I just think it says a lot about a person who is so generous with their collection of work. And also, tonight, his time, to give us his time. And it's my pleasure to introduce Liam Lyons.
Thank you, Liam. Thank you very much. So I've lived up to all that now that you said about me. I try. I'm here to talk about a selection from my life's work. 50 years I've been a professional photographer, and thankfully I didn't know what I'd do with all my negatives. I had them all since 1955. Hundreds of thousands of negatives. Of course, my family, April and Fidelma, know that they have been wonderful always. All through my life has put up with me, because being a photographer, particularly involved in press work, it was such a haphazard way of living that it didn't know when I'd have to go where. That huge mileage, chasing and rushing, going in, grabbing our food and out again. This was the way for many, many years. There was no mobile phones or anything like that in those times either. But I'm not here to talk about that now, and here I am talking about it. But what I'll do is, I have a note here, Westport. Now this is the gatherings of the people of Westport, the Coveys. I was wondering, I was trying to gear this into those people that had left here in the 50s and the 40s. And left Westport then, and what it was like then. And I'm very, very aware that I never left Westport. Well, I never lived anywhere else but Westport, and only except for 6 weeks in 1957 when I was a constable for 6 weeks. And that also decided on my career too. I went to school here at Mr. Brothers in Westport, and they were great men, I must say, and a lot of things said about them, but I found them hard workers, and they had very different conditions for themselves. So any education we got here in Westport, those that stayed on, and we really have to thank Mr. Brothers for that. Now, I just love Westport, I always did. I loved living here, and I didn't see it at first, but it was obvious for me that why I loved it was just the plan, town, the beautiful town, beautiful buildings. Apart from that, then the scenery, the Kirkpatricks, Clare Island, the islands, the water, the sea, the clouds, the skies, all so appealing to anybody that just opens your eyes to everybody. It's just so beautiful. And of course, most of all, the people in Westport. They have been welcoming to all types of, to all strangers that come to live here, and thankfully that many have done that, and they've added so much to the town. The people that have come and decided to live here and work here, and they have contributed so much volunteer work. I mean, the Trading Towns is an example of that, they're accredited, and many other organisations. So it has made the town it is. And Dr. John Callahan was a very close friend of ours. He was the man that put in the submission for Westport into the Irish Times, and there was 630 entries of Westport came up in town as the best place in Ireland to live in. I have no doubts about that. Now, in my work, then I was able, thankfully I travelled a lot for short periods, and I've been many, many times in Africa, and I've been in Russia, I've been in many countries anyway, and everybody says our place, wherever they are, the view we have, I've seen nothing as nice as Westport, nothing as nice as Clogay. And I don't believe there can be anything as lovely as Clogay. That's just me now as a photographer, just the way I feel. I'm out about it, I think the whole place is the best. Anyway, I came to be a photographer in a strange way. My brother Jackie, who moved to America in 1956, he was in the Mayo and he bought a camera. And I used to fiddle with it then and started taking a few photographs. And he then took a job that he couldn't get off and work for, and I did it for him. And I didn't think much about photography at the time. I wanted to be a vocational teacher. I was doing some Peter Gamery, you'll see it in the slides that come up. Teacher here at Westport, he had started an engineering works down Church Lane, and I was working in it with him. And I was running the place then, we had 5 men, and we got contracts from board and all of that. I loved the work. But at that stage then, I began to develop hardly pain behind my left eye. And it got worse and worse. So eventually I ended up in hospital having serious surgery. I had my brain reconditioned, you could say. It's a good idea, Brandon, had a brain reconditioned. But I had, and I was very lucky to survive, which I did. And I was told I can't work for a year, so I drifted into photography again, and I've never done anything else since, and that's how I came into photography. And I've had a wonderful life of great interest, great variety, great excitement. No day was dull, every day was exciting. And that's where I am now, and I've had a huge variety of work. Tonight now it's different, it's really just the town of Westport and people and things like that. But that's the variety. Any other subject would make a talk on their own, but mine be of general interest, that's the trouble. So we'll start off talking now, and that's obvious to everybody, that's the optical and people in it. And at a quick glance at that, it kind of reminded me of a lowering matchstick people, because you never see the optical again, or rarely will, with many people rather than cars and lorries and traders and all that. It's lovely to see the clear space as designed by the original designer Wyatt or Castles, I don't know, was it Castles or Wyatt that did it. But it's such a lovely centre of town is the Octree. So we move on, Tom. Oh yeah, this is Church Lane now. And why I'm showing you that is, that's where I was working in the engineering works there. It's just below the arch there. We'll see it in the next slide, I think. And it's called Dabro Engineering, Gabriel Brothers. And I worked there for about two years when I became ill. And thank God that's behind me. Now, that's, we'd say, one of the early photographs. That's the Pavilion Ballroom. It was a drama, a Westport St. Patrick's drama. They're still in existence and very, very successful, and that was one of the very early plays. Does Martin Curry know what play was at that time?
I'd say it was the very first one, Liam.
Yes, and what was that?
Daughter from Over the Water.
Sorry?
Daughter from
Over the Water.
1964.
64, was it? Yeah, well, that's one of my early photographs. Now, in the front row of that, you can see second row back is Mrs. McLaughlin Studios. And they had Tommy was a son of the photographer. He was taking pictures too there because she's holding a flash in her hand. But she didn't want to be in the picture. So she put her hand up there. Behind her is her daughter, Mrs. Quirk. And Mrs. Quirk's son Noel and I became business partners, not partners, but colleagues for many, many years. He started a big processing laboratory in Dublin, and he did all my work for years and years of processing my work, my colour work. So we go from there. I was hoping to be a vocational teacher then. I did network construction and that. I got a lot of exams and a lot of certificates, but it doesn't work out for me. It seems photography was meant for me. Oh yes, now this some of the little customs we had here, sadly no more. This was a station mass, And the station mast was in, every place was sectioned off around the parish of Westport, and there might be 100 houses in the area, and there'd be mass set there, and all the neighbours would be asked in the after the mass was over, the best for the mass too, and when the priests were gone, then they'd open the few bottles of the half barrel and there'd be a whole evening, day and evening out of it. But I was a mass server too, and I used to go to these and get off school to go to them, which was great. And we used to love that. Now, in that photograph, that's Mrs. McCrone up there on Sandy Hill up that area. Mrs. McCrone was in her house, and Father Tom Lynch. And does anybody know the little boy sitting out there? Very rarely. Yes, Perry's retired now, I think, isn't he? Yeah, and there was Perry. Now this was, I think it was Procession Sunday. The thing about that, in every picture there is some little thing that people would wonder about in 30, 40, 50 years' time. So what we do, John, and we're trying to put in as much information into the files we have about point out things in the pictures. Now that's the local defence force of the FCA, and they're carrying 303 rifles with bayonets, real live guns. That was then when the trouble started in '69. The FCA were not allowed anymore to have real guns. Couldn't bring them home to the houses. They all brought their guns into their houses and had their guns inside the door and houses, or under the bed, wherever they were. But and the bayonets too. So that's just something in the past that would never be seen again. Now that was the Gaelic Glass Cady band, Cady music. Irish dancing was very popular then too, and they were a very famous band, and they were brought here to Westport for a concert. And the thing about those times, the 50s, 60s, it was self-entertainment, where people, well, they went to dances, all right, and they went to the pictures, but that was where there was no television or anything. So you will see through the various pictures now how people came out on the streets or whatever it was for local entertainment, just fun, rather than costly admittances into so-called singing stars. And well, I said, I have a bit of a hang up about some of these ancient artists from the past that are charging an awful fee now, and we should be at home saying their rosaries.
Where were they taken?
So that's an extraordinary picture. And you'll never see anything like this again. Now they're all men, and every one of those men is wearing a pioneer pin that was vowed against the demon drink, Pioneer Total Abstinence Association. And the amount of people that were members of it in those times, not I would like that. That was the way it was in not just Westport, in most of Ireland then. You had to take your confirmation plate, and then after that you became a pioneer, and then you got a gold pin and all the rest. Commercialisation of drink had won out, I think, and it's still there. That's very much so. The Westport, the Total Abstinence Association, still strong enough in Westport, but nothing to the strength it was then.